Welcome to the Hard to Kill podcast, the official podcast of the Hard to Kill program, the world's leading program for driven individuals looking to gain direction and momentum, where we aim to break down the complex, multifaceted and holistic factors of human performance and optimization. Both on the program and on this podcast, we will be discussing and excavating everything pertaining to psychological resilience, physical robustness, and leading by example with discipline and tenacity to create a culture of winning, especially in the turbulent, frenetic, and high-tempo world of the ambitious individual. This is Mark, the creator, senior DS, and head coach of the Hard to Kill program. Let's get stuck straight into it. So today, please help me welcome our guest, Andy Roberts Jiu-Jitsu. Andy is a black belt operating under the name of Andy Roberts BJJ and also runs Tactical JiuJitsu. So without further ado, I'll hand over to the man himself. He can introduce himself, tell you a little bit about himself. So first and foremost, mate, thank you very much for coming on. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, mate?
Yeah, so I say, my name's Andy, but I've been training sort of martial arts since I was 8 years old. Eventually found my way to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. After trying a lot of stuff, settled with the BJJ side of things, luckily to train with some of the top guys, and then currently sort of running a full-time academy in North Camp, sort of Hampshire way, next to Aldershot, but also have a side company, Tactical JiuJitsu, which we deliver training to the military, and we provide sort of free training for police and sort of security and all those sort of things. It's not thing with Tactical JiuJitsu. It's not jiu-jitsu. This is not jiu-jitsu as we know it. So it's more traditionally. So I use jiu-jitsu because it's more akin to the samurai battlefield stuff. So the Tactical Jiu-Jitsu program has striking, stand-up wrestling and stuff, and the ground survival part. In terms of my martial arts journey, I was briefly started with judo for a couple of years. Judo was 8. Parents put it in, standard story, little timid kid, needs a bit of confidence. Yeah, so put in judo, loved it. Fortunately, that club closed. Tried a few other clubs, didn't quite get on. Then found a traditional jiu-jitsu club, loved that, fell in love with that. And then there's 93, 94. We convinced my mate's mum to get UFC 1 out of the video store. We saw it, saw hoisting his gi, smashing everyone, and we're like, boom, we're doing jiu-jitsu. He's doing jiu-jitsu. We must be on the right path.
Yeah.
Spoke to my instructor about it, and he was like, who's Hoist Gracie? Never heard of them. And all that. So I was like, okay. And then about 98, I got to train with Carly Gracie on a seminar. He came over to Sheffield, did that. And I was like, actually, this is the form of jiu-jitsu I need to do. Started on that path, went to the States and trained. Ended up moving down south, trained at Rogers Academy, helped him set up his first full-time academy, trained under Roger Gracie. And then from there, got my belts and everything from him and his father. Sort of in 2007, opened my own place, started teaching as a purple belt then because there was no one else around to train with. But I was traveling to London and training. And then here we are 15 years later from that full-time academy. It's a 15-year anniversary of this place in September. And then probably, I think 2017, started the Tactical Jiu-Jitsu stuff properly because of proximity to the army bases, guys who are training, they have a requirement to do it. We helped them set up the sports team first. So that was like the first in getting BJJ recognized as an official army sport. Through that, we managed to get a lot of contacts and then started doing sort of a bit more of the unarmed combat. We say unarmed, but everyone's armed. So the survivability training with the guys.
Yeah.
Started with 4 rifles. Their CO loved it. He came down from 2-2, took over. Actually joined in the session. They had a few guys come in and do some trial sessions. Him and the 2IC joined in. Loved it. And he was paying out his own CO's fund to get us training weekly with those guys. So they were like the first sort of regiment to start training regularly. And then from there, we've built through other specialist units. And we're in a fortunate position now to be running a pilot with 16 Air Assault Brigade. Yeah. And they're running a dismounted close combat survivability program. Yeah. We did the first train the trainer program a couple of weeks ago. And they're going to start delivering to their units from September. So big things happening, hopefully.
Big moves, mate. Fantastic. Like what I picked up on, especially there, is when you started training it as a martial art, like I can only imagine there was just not like now we're very fortunate in the UK. We've got a really thriving and rapidly growing jiu-jitsu scene, specifically Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Back when you first started knocking on the door of it, and even when you started instructing at Purple Belt, I hazard a guess it was pretty fucking barren in terms of like actual places to train the people to train with.
Yeah, definitely. So I was in Sheffield up until 2004, and we had to literally, as me and my mate went to the States to train, we got our blue belts. Well, it was my second visit, his first visit, but I'd been helping him train, and we got our blue belts like 2001. Came back, internet was just starting off to try and find out who's training. So we were pretty much on our own. But then we hooked up with a couple of other guys like Ben Popperton and Neil Owen and stuff come over from Doncaster. So we used to train with about 5 or 6 of us once a week training. But again, I think I did a count when I was blue belt, and I think there was was probably 30 or 40 blue belts at the time when we got it. So yeah, we were at the beginning, and it was kind of the north, traveling around, training with each other. Found out Mauricio was in Birmingham at that time. Drove down, but the first time I trained with him, it was his last day in Birmingham before he moved to London. So I was like, come on. So yeah, so we made trips to London, everything, just trained amongst ourselves. I think we're probably at a little advantage in the fact that the club I was helping teach traditional jiu-jitsu at in Sheffield had, like, the guy who owned it was a judo black belt as well, and I'd done judo, so we had quite a sort of eclectic and almost modern approach to the traditional stuff. So we'd go and train at Hillsborough Judo Club with like guys like Steve Gorthop and stuff. They were there, so we'd do that once or twice a month. We also, at that time, I was training Thai boxing and all sorts. So we had it wasn't stuck in a traditional mindset. It was always trying to find out what was working, what not. And then Hoyce came over doing his visits and stuff. So yeah, we were lucky that it was quite forward thinking how we were doing the approach and stuff. And
Yeah,
obviously got wrestling connection.
That's definitely like a lineage that I've seen really frequently with high level guys such as yourself, is they've studied judo first, because it almost seems like a parent sport and entry to like the grappling martial arts. Then obviously the derivations of that. And I didn't actually know until probably about a year ago that Brazilian jiu-jitsu was derived from traditional jiu-jitsu, which was derived from what samurais would do at the time at which they were disarmed on a battlefield to disarm and then incapacitate an opponent. So it's really, really cool. And obviously then you can really obviously see the carryover between that and like dismounted survivability. So if someone's closing forth with a long barreled weapon, like getting past that and then, you know, obviously doing what is necessary off the back of it. Because rightly or wrongly, Brazilian jiu-jitsu from my perspective now is going down a route of being relatively uncombative. Like, it's very sport oriented. So, you know, if you're going to start inverting and looking for a leg lock when someone's trying to fucking brass you up, it's probably not going to go ever so well. So
I think that side of things is a good point, but it's like there's evolution. So it's the same as what's happened to judo. So as you touched on, we got the jiu-jitsu the samurai did, and when they got disarmed or close range, that then was what they did. Well, but feudal Japan kind of ended. Samurai had nothing to do. They just wandered around beating each other up and having fights and beating the civilians up. What happened? They weren't this. Okay, they had their code of honor, but I think when there wasn't any wars to fight, they were probably quite a thuggish group of people. Yeah. Then you got Kano, who started judo, and basically he wanted to create sport, or to maintain that jiu-jitsu sort of maintain the art. But obviously there's no wars to fight. So he removed some of the stuff, taking people off horses, all the stuff that they didn't need to have, got it recognized as a sport, taught in universities. From there, went to the Olympics. And if it hadn't have gone to the Olympics, would probably look more like BJJ does, because it was meant to be efficient. It's meant to do what it's meant to be doing, effective fighting art. It had strikes in it. It had the self-defense elements. For the Olympics, they want to stay on TV. They want TV coverage. So big throws rather than groundwork sell. An audience can understand it. Audiences understand knockouts, and they understand big takedowns in MMA, and they understand the submission. But the intricacies in between, they struggle with. So it's gone down that path. Whereas the BJJ guys, or the originally Gracie guys, got taught by Kano's student, who was a jiu-jitsu guy, then became a judo guy, traveled, did a bit of catch wrestling in the UK, ran out of money. The only way you could earn money was to prize fight. But Kano had that set of rules in place that you can't, if you're a judo guy, you can't prize fight. Yeah. So out of respect, he took away judo and called it jiu-jitsu again. And then you get to the Gracie family and that Brazilian culture, street fights, vale tudo. So they made an efficient art, and that's great. And then touching on how it's going sporty, I think like it's a natural progression of, we have this art that is really effective self-defense and combat style, but it's limited in the longevity of how much you can train. You don't need to know that much to become effective. So then the natural progression is we start rolling around, doing more sparring, we start creating new positions and have fun. And the sport side of things is going to keep the combat alive, but it will invent new positions. And as long as your mindset is aware that actually when I'm on the street or when I'm doing it in like full rig in the salt, that I'm not going to invert, I'm going to have a very basic strategy and game plan that what I'm going to do, then it's fine. And then the sports side adds that level of enjoyment and fun and doing that sort of stuff. So I think it's kind of horses for courses. If you want to compete, you're going to have to learn all that new stuff. But if you want to be sort of effective at jiu-jitsu, you need to keep that fundamental. So as long as schools are still teaching fundamentals and then adding the sport stuff on the end, and they know how to defend punches from the guys mounted on you, you know how to defend it if it's punching you, and you know how to defend and take someone down if they're trying to strike you. then it's all good.
Fantastic. Yeah. So what I'm particularly interested off the back of that is then talking about your role in training guys in dismounted survivability, in like close quarters combat and all that sort of stuff. Because as you well know, like inside the Hard to Kill program, we have a high percentage of individuals serving in law enforcement, both here and in the United States. And to not put too fine a point on it, their training offered professionally is subpar or inadequate to actually do their job to the best of their ability and be safe in that. And then we also get individuals currently serving or aspiring to serve in the military as well, whereby like it's the chances of them actually coming into close quarters combat in that way in the roles they're in are relatively slim. But I want to talk about the overarching sort of theme of self-confidence and self-assurance and self-reliability when it comes to actually having that as a skill up your sleeve. So what, as a sort of systemic overview, what's the principles that you bring to the table when you start talking about, dismounted survivability?
Okay, so let's go for there's three, as I see it, there's a threefold benefit. One is obviously, if it does go hands-on, you know how to defend yourself, whether that's in a combat role or whether it's on the streets. Like, you have a responsibility to the guys they have to be able to defend themselves. It's almost like a duty care. We don't want sort of like another Lee Rigby incident. Yeah. So there is always a threat, whether the guys on operations or the guys are just walking down the street, there is a threat to them. So we have those two benefits, which is the obvious benefit of learning how to fight. Then you go into the other benefits which you talk about that self-confidence and doing stuff. It's like, what higher level of confidence can you have knowing that you can handle yourself in a physical one-on-one altercation? If you know that there's no other threat to you, okay, as a human, okay, if you can defend yourself against another human who's attacking you, that level of confidence it instills is going to sort of almost allow you to avoid that contact, that confidence. As I remember growing up as a kid, the police would have your respect. You were scared of them, okay? And now, all due respect, you're not. There's like, they don't instill me with confidence to be able to protect myself or my family or whatever. Yeah. And that, because, as you say, the training lacks. And if the guys had better training, that air of confidence that they exude, and actually, I know this copper can handle himself, so I'm not actually going to kick off as much as I would have done. And the same, someone starts a fight, they come into initial contact with you, you've got confidence not to go see red and go balls out because you're training every day in the gym. You know what a fight's like. You can stop that sort of straight away in the early stages. Yeah. And then the other benefit is sort of the camaraderie and the teamwork and the ethic of the guys scrapping together every day on the mat. You have to build a level of trust. If someone catches you in a submission, you got to trust them that when you tap, then they're going to let go. And vice versa. If you're putting a submission on, you're trusting the guy to tap before you injure him. So there's this massive level of mutual respect and trust. You don't have to like each other, but there's a respect and trust that then will allow teams to work better together in high pressure environments. And then the last benefit is being able to problem solve under immense pressure. The guy sat on your chest, punching you in the face, or he's sat on your chest trying to choke you out, and if you panic, if you just go crazy, it's going to end up in a worse situation. So you need to be able to stay calm, almost have like okay, I'm safe, I'm there. How do I figure myself way out of this situation? And that reflects, one, battlefield tactics, and two, everyday life. You've got to be able to remain calm under pressure and make the right decisions. So that's kind of the overall arching benefits of what we see with the program. In terms of the guys not necessarily having to use it, yeah, it's great. Like, this is how the program sits, which is what we deliver, is you never want to use it. What I'm telling you is not what I want you to go and do. Yeah, you're going to do your job role as your job role is meant to be done. So policeman trying to arrest someone, you're not just going to run in, double leg takedown, wrap them up. You're going to have a chat to them. You're going to talk them through, trying to arrest them, stood up. You're going to do job role. But what happens when it goes wrong? Yeah, you go hands on to try and cuff someone, then they start resisting. What exists in the police manual at the moment to deal with that situation doesn't work. I had a training day here, biggest copper on there, handcuff on one wrist. He did what they're taught and he couldn't move me. And I'm not that big a bloke, but he couldn't move me. So what we've developed are sort of techniques and procedures, almost tactics, to deal with these things. Yeah. That's what's going to happen. It's either the guy's going to be compliant and it's easy and you do your job role, or is non-compliant and you do your job role how they're saying to it, or it goes from compliant to non-compliant and you need a backup. And if you have that backup, you're less likely to use excessive force. Yeah. At the moment, I think I'll probably get corrected if I'm wrong, but you have a chat to someone, can I arrest you? No, they start resisting. Okay, I'm gonna pepper spray you. They have levels of force, but their levels of escalation is like verbal, pepper spray, taser, and then firearm. And it's like there's a massive gap missing.
Yeah.
So we're and that's the same we found with the army. We've got chat to them, shout at them, talk, or lethal. And there's zero in between that's being taught.
Yeah.
And that's where we've come in and just trying to fill that capability gap for the guys.
Yeah.
And it's worked. It's like everyone we've had skeptics at the beginning, but everyone who's come on the course or seen the training is like, well, actually this is what we need. And it's not like you go on YouTube, Google BJJ. Oh no, we don't want to do that. I agree. You don't want to do that. But the program has, like, as I say, striking element, striking phase, both offensive and defensive, stand-up grappling, offensive and defensive, and then ground survival. And the main goal of the whole program is to maintain, for armed forces, maintain weapons range, and for police, maintain that safe range, or get back to that range. So it's taken a lot of time,
building out those strategic syllabuses, because it's very similar to what we have what's called a genius model in the Hard to Kill, and we basically sat over weeks and months devising everything an individual will need to know to plug into to then be proficient, to be their own coach from that point onwards. And it's an enormous amount. And you've actually got to create the syllabus, and then you've got to beta test it. So I can definitely respect how much will have gone into it. And then you've also got, with your stuff, is battle test it as well. Well, let's try this system. What happened? Oh, well, actually the response is not what we were expecting, and it fucked it up for that reason. So let's go back to the drawing board and let's look at adding in these details and these thought processes. It's really interesting that you mentioned about Lee Rigby, because you know what, I'd not even considered that. For those guys who are listening in the States who aren't familiar with Lee Rigby, maybe give it a Google. But it was a pretty traumatic, and it was definitely a turning point in the sort of the atmospherics of how the British military was seen internally in the UK, at least. And it's really interesting you said that, because we often think of guys that are serving and they're maybe on deployments and they might need to defend themselves in that way, but actually you can just be cutting about and be caught at the wrong time, at wrong place, by the wrong people who wish you ill harm. And actually, again, having that confidence and self-assurance is pivotal. And also what you've spoken to with regards to actual self-assurance and self-confidence, like we spoke just before we jumped on about people who know how to handle themselves and are training multiple times per week and putting hands on another determined opponent and training at 100% resistance, typically have a higher sense of self-assurance and of self-confidence. So then, like, through reciprocity, when you're speaking to someone that's getting angry who maybe isn't trained, you kind of think, well, I know even if I do a very fundamental, if I come at you, I'm going to break your arm, break your shoulder, I don't want to do that. So you're avoiding conflict and confrontation at all times. So if you have two people who kind of have a mutual respect and understanding, you're probably going to find a better way to articulate it and de-escalate the situation rather than it going hands-on, as you said. And then lastly, we're all familiar with these horror videos that are coming up on YouTube and other social media platforms of coppers doing, let's say, unprofessional things to control and restrain an individual. And I genuinely do not believe it's through animosity or through hatred. It's simply don't know what the fuck else to do.
It's lack of training. It's like you're going to revert to instincts. It's like you watch two guys. I'm going to twist
something. I'm going to grab something and pull it. But if you understood, like, okay, if I control the joint north of that and I can apply leverage, and it's a lot more gentle to control that person's posture and put them where I need them, rather than just fucking swinging around their elbow and hoping for the best.
Yeah, and I think what they have, so the police are a bit like they have a lot of public scrutiny, and so they're always worried about guys with mobiles, finding out what it's going to look like and how to explain it. And because no one understands grappling, it's a really bad position. Look, you sat on his chest. It's like, nah, it's better than me punching him in the face. But people don't understand that. And what we've managed to do, or what we can do with the police training, is we can put validation behind why they escalated. So I was chatting to him, whatever. He lunged at me, so I clinched with him. I didn't need to put him down. I clinched, because most of the time, if someone throws a sucker punch at you and you clinch with them, their fight's gone. Most people have like, this is what I'm going to do. And if it happens, great. And they've got a few seconds of, like, I think it's 17 seconds is the average of fighting someone. So they get that attack. If it doesn't work because you've ducked and clinched with them, or you just tied them up, and they're like, that fight's going to go out, and they're going to, actually, this guy knows what he's doing. I better level with it and sort of stop my attack. And then we can escalate from that clinch to taking them down, controlling them, and so on. So we can give them an escalation of force model with explanations behind it. So when they have to write up the report, go, this is why I did this, this, and this.
Yeah.
Okay. And the public scrutiny and public perception's bad, but it's the same with the army. Everyone's got mobile phones. Everyone's got body cams. So we've got to do stuff that is working and able to control people and fill, as I said before, that capability gap. Yeah. And the reason why it's grappling based, I say we've got a striking phase, but it's kind of more to understand the attacks and understand how someone's striking, and gives you that option if you just want to maintain a bit of distance. But say if we take it to army, if the threat's at distance or within striking range, I've got a rifle or I've got a sidearm. It's like there's no point me striking. Okay, that if it's a lethal threat, if they've gone past and got inside that the arc of that long arm, then I need an option, and that option's clinching. Yeah, it's grappling. Grappling is the answer. Any fight that starts at distance, police, whatever, we have weapons and stuff to deal with that distance. I don't want to get in a striking battle because I can't even the battlefield. The guy's bigger than me. Okay. I'm not necessarily going to win that striking match. Where with grappling, at least you can, even if you just buy yourself a little bit of time, control that person until backup arrives and stuff, you're going to have a higher percentage chance of coming out on top than you are if you just try and beat the guy up in a striking battle.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely identify with all of that you've said. So speaking outside of like just law enforcement and the military, what kind of responsibility do you think that civilians listening to this should take over their ability to keep themselves safe? Given what we've spoken about, that the police, not through lack of motivation for the individuals who are enforcing the law, I want to make it really clear that we're not vindicating them or making out that they're the problem. It's much higher than that, and it's down to the training they're receiving. They're doing the best they can with the resource they have available. But because of that, civilians might feel like they're in a position where they're relatively vulnerable. What do you think they have in terms of responsibility to learn to defend themselves?
I think everyone should. I think everyone has that responsibility. But I'm gonna tread on some toes here.
Mate, just crack on. I do it all the time.
We have a lack of police numbers, which is the biggest problem. Lack of police numbers and lack of decent training. I got a lot of police who train at the academy and a lot of military, so we're good. But yes, everyone has the right not to be attacked. This is where I'm getting to. Everyone, but you shouldn't have attacked me. Yeah. Right, okay. Yes, we shouldn't. Everyone has the right to defend themselves. Everyone has that right. And everyone has the right not to be attacked. But trying to solve the problem of people attacking other people, it is way bigger. And that's probably never going to happen. It's a society-bound thing. So, yeah, we should educate people that violence is bad and you shouldn't attack people and all that. That's great. But that's not going to solve the problem in the short term. Yeah. And the short term is that you should know, 1, how to defend yourself. You should know, 2, first aid. Okay. And have sort of escape plan. Everyone should have a fire escape plan at their house. Does everyone? Probably not, but the likelihood that you should know what to do if there's a fire in your house. Yeah, it's not smoke alarm's going off and turn it off. No, actually, is there a fire? Like, how do I open a door handle in a house fire? I can't grab it because if it's hot, I'm going to melt my hand to the door handle. Yeah. So, and no one's going to argue with me. No one's going to argue the fact that you should not need to know that. You might not. Okay, it might be a hole in your repertoire, but you should know what to do if your house sets on fire.
I think a lot of the issue people that we run into is people being like, it's like, when you talk about unarmed combat and you see a lot of guys who lift weights that are pretty big guys, they're like, oh mate, I'll just draw him. Like, I'll just see red. I know what to do. And it's like, well, you won't.
Exactly.
I think you're probably the best equipped and skilled and experienced person to talk to that frame of mind. When you get big guys who are like, I'll just fucking bang him out. It's like, well, if you're up against someone who actually deliberately lays hands on another human multiple times per week, the chances are it's not going to be in your favor, mate.
Yeah, it's like, so most men, what is it? I think there's a great meme where it says 80% of men overestimate their ability to fight. The other 20% just think they'll see red. But it's like everyone overestimates their ability. And as you say, unless you're stepping on the mat or sparring or doing something constantly, you don't know what it's like. And being able to, speaking of experience, be able to handle someone who hasn't got the experience, it's like playing with a little kid. I've been, so rightly or wrongly, the program has been tested, not necessarily in a controlled way. So we go and teach a class. It's a bunch of squaddies, a bunch of other guys, and they want to test me. Yeah, I'm a civic, come in. I'm not that big. And I get tested by guys who haven't fought. And it is like playing with a baby. Yeah. They don't, no matter how aggressive they get, or how much you see red, you don't have the skill set to be able to deal with it. And I've had, if we take it back to the gym, I've had pro MMA fighters, steroided up, massive, huge guys. And they started in the group classes. And after a few weeks, I just want to do one-to-ones. I was like, why do you want to do one-to-ones? Oh, I learn more. No, the reason you want to do one-to-ones is you turn up in class and you get handled by the guy who sits in an office all day, who is half your size, and your ego can't cope with it. Yeah. And it's the same, it's that saying, if you're the best fighter in the gym, you're in the wrong gym, because you need to be pushing yourself. And if people who train are doing that and pushing themselves, that person who watches UFC at the weekend, has a few beers, goes out and gets angry, he's not going to be able to even touch someone who trains properly. And it's very hard to even get that across to people who haven't trained. So the only way to do it is to train. And like, once you train, even if you do one session, you'll be like, actually, I know nothing. And what you do with that decision there is up to you, whether you keep training or whether it tells you that maybe you shouldn't be overly aggressive and think you can see red and get away with it, that's up to you. But honestly, the only way you can do it is to experience it, and everyone should learn how to defend themselves, because it's all right. And if you think you can defend yourself and have never trained, you can't defend yourself. You may have knocked someone out in a street fight, great, but you can't.
They probably knew very little either.
Yeah.
Or they were equally as pissed as you were. And it's
Exactly.
a conversation that it's a very bitter pill for a lot of people to swallow. I remember when I first started training, I just finished bodybuilding, which I did more for the challenge than anything else. And I was walking around about 10 kilos heavier than I am now. And I walked into a gym up here in Manchester, and I was getting arseholed by guys 20 kilos lighter than me. Like, they were literally absolutely. I was tapping probably every 30 seconds as a minimum. And then I realized, like, yeah, this false sense of security I've had walking around, cutting about, because I'm a big guy, has been deluded for a long time. Yeah, 100%.
And it's humbling.
Yeah,
it's
very much humbling. And
massively
sometimes people have to be at a stage of their life where they are open they're receptive to that information. Some people, if they've got other challenges going on in their life, their ego is relatively inflamed and a dominant presence in their life. They're like, nah, fuck it, fuck that off. I'm just going to do my own thing, keep doing that. But I can't speak highly enough to the humility that comes from it. And also, you spoke about the enjoyment factor today as well. I don't think we can overlook that. I can't speak to how that would feel with regards to unit cohesion in the military or law enforcement, but certainly like the genuine sense of like family and brotherhood, if you want to call it that we get in the gym that I train at, and I assume the same at your place as well, is incomparable. And if my life was like void of that, I think I'd probably struggle, because my life is relatively isolated based on what it is that I do. I speak to the clients and team on a regular basis, but actually going and getting hands-on with red-blooded blokes and having a laugh, having a scrap, turning it up a notch or two is exceptional. I genuinely believe that a lot of red-blooded men fucking need that as a presence in their life.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's why guys like Reorg and stuff are doing so well.
Yeah.
We've done the same work with veterans at like Help Heroes and stuff for years and doing stuff, and that's the main thing they're missing. They leave the army or the military and that camaraderie and other blokes and other male company and stuff, and they come to the gym, and we're almost replicating like what they've had in the past. You've got people with the same goal, same interest, but completely different walks of life, but you're coming together in that brotherhood. So that's why it's great for sort of the veteran community as well. But also, I say nowadays it's hard to meet people. Like it's hard to most people are kind of, they got to work, or there's a lot of working from home. Pandemic screwed a lot of people over, and people are struggling to meet. Where you come down to a gym and train, it's different. You have that whole social bonding. Humans, I think the tribe mentality that you get that humans are missing probably in modern society, it's great. It's like you can't replicate what you get on the mats.
And it's a real humble, like it sounds very cliche, but it really is very humbling, to the extent that no one gives a fuck how much you get paid, what your job title is, what your marital status is, sexuality. It's like in a gym, it's all based on like merit of how good you are in that gym, and there's a hierarchy within that. I don't really necessarily agree with how cultish some jiu-jitsu gyms get, but there is definitely a hierarchy of like, he's fucking mega, he can handle himself, he's new, he's still learning, and finding mutual respect for people in that is really, really cool. So in terms of like army jiu-jitsu, I'm seeing it become more prolific on social media now. I remember even a couple of years ago, it was unheard of, whereas the Royal Marines and Reorg has been in the social eye, well, in the subculture eye of jiu-jitsu for a couple of years now at least. Is army jiu-jitsu something that's now really growing?
Yeah, I mean, so it's probably it's definitely the biggest martial art probably in the army. It'll probably the fastest growing sport. It's definitely in one of the garrisons we train in. It's now the biggest sport there, so they're going to get a load of funding and stuff. So that's really good. It's taken a long time. I think the main issue the guys get is they get posted every 2 years. So it's like they're training in a gym, settled in a gym for 2 years. They either get deployed or then they get posted somewhere else, and they're almost restarting their journey. So it takes the guys a little bit longer, and their training is not as consistent, obviously, because of deployments and stuff. So that's the biggest problem or challenge they're going to face. And I think that needs a conversation between Jiu-Jitsu Academy owners in the UK, because it's like, if you get someone who's trained with you for 2 years, you want to promote them, they get deployed for 6 months, then they're posted up somewhere else and you're never going to see them again, then there needs to be an acceptance from the next club that they go to of the experience and stuff that they've had already. It's like there's
these 8-year white belts who just because they're moving around all over the place.
I was about to say that. We just got a guy who's been training 8 years and he's just got his purple belt. But he's not the time frame, he's a beast as well. He beats other purple belts and he has been for a long time. I think the army is now fortunate to have some black belts, officer positions as well. So the sport can be pushed a bit more. And also we're now actually, that guy keeps chopping around different clubs, different deployments, but he's really good. So we'll promote him internally as well. But as a sport, it's growing massively. the benefits there. And yeah, they're sending a big team out to the World Masters in next week. So they're here at the academy training for a couple of weeks, but I think they've got 13 flying out to fight World Masters, which is, and it's supported that as it's a recognized sport now, it's on duty status. So they can go out there, get a little bit of support from their units funding wise. So it's, and the reorg are supporting them as well. So it's definitely growing. And I think once you get a few of the old guard out, and you're getting the younger guys moving up through the ranks who've been training, then it's just going to have sort of a massive like cumulative effect from there. It's almost like there's old guys. We just box in the army. Boxing's massive in the army, and I do think probably 10 years time that jiu-jitsu will be bigger or as big as boxing is.
Yeah.
So it's just.
I use the analogy of like rugby and football with this, in terms of like football's really accessible to anybody because it's really pretty simplistic. Fucking boot it and it goes in net, you win, mega. Whereas like rugby is obviously a lot more of a complex sport, so it requires a different individual who understands the nuances of the game. It's very similar with boxing. It's like if you hit him more and you didn't get hit, you're going to win. With jiu-jitsu, it's like it can be a really pretty technical match that looks from the untrained eye like two people just rolling around on the floor. But when you understand the intricacies and nuances, so that speaks to what you said about if when you get guys that are promoting through the ranks and who've got black belts or a senior belts, and they appreciate that, and you maybe get like sports scheme the same that boxing teams have in the military, that could be fantastic for the sport. We work with a proportion of guys who are based in the US, and we've noticed a real cultural difference because obviously they've got like the US military combatives tournaments and all that sort of stuff, which I believe is like a hybrid of multiple different disciplines. But
it's like, so their combatives tournaments are sort of an offshoot of their Modern Army Combatives program, which Matt Larson did however many years ago. So if we manage to get the tactical jiu-jitsu in through the units, because that's obviously separate from sport training, it's military skills, it's a military training, but having combatives tournaments or jiu-jitsu tournaments on the back of that is going to be, so I think it's a twofold effect, and they're both going to benefit each other. But it's interesting you mentioned like football. So the Garrison I mentioned before, their football team has 6 people in it. The jiu-jitsu group has 150.
That's the way it fucking should be, mate.
So it's like this, and that literally, we started that jiu-jitsu club officially like 2 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
And it's just growing. So the blokes are now seeing the benefits and the enjoyment and doing it, and it doesn't rely on anyone else as well. I think that's a good thing. It's like, even though you have the massive team aspect of you needing people to train with and the camaraderie you get, it also is 100% you accountable. You're not going to get better unless you turn up and train. So it relies on you. And I think some of the guys appreciate that as well.
I like that, yeah. I mean, coming from myself, like a very competitive, very new age thinking gym, where there's some exceptional talent in the room, you have like 2 weeks off and you will get arsehole with something that you thought you were proficient at 2 weeks ago. The room is increasing and improving that well. And also, you get that kind of banter from males. Again, I do generally, male and females, I think it's inside the military, it happens in all areas, and I don't want to be exclusive, but you get bantered when you're not going to training, like for not turning up, just being a bit of a shit bloke. And it's like, mate, why aren't you fucking training? Why aren't you here? So you feel part of something. And then even if you zoom out and look at it in kind of the wider operational sense, the more sports and inclusivity and opportunity that a struggling military, in my opinion, can offer to young lads, it is only going to be beneficial and advantageous, because it literally is a life skill. It's not like you're going to do it in the confines of a uniform and then you sign off and then that's a non-usable skill. Like, that is something you can do in your own time outside of the job to compete and have fun and make friends. And exactly as you spoke to, you can move around anywhere. Like, I'm actually going to Australia next month, and I know that in the town I'm going to, there's a jiu-jitsu gym, and I'll be able to walk in that gym and the belt that I'm wearing will be recognized, and I can train with other people, and I'll make friends there for the time that I'm there. And I think that's enormous as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think they've got to, as you say, some gyms are cultish, and that's going to hold back sort of their own development as a gym, but also it kind of alienates some of the community. So some guys I know started training at certain clubs, then got deployed and moved, and then they can't find another gym that they feel welcoming or settled in. So that's a big thing for the guys to try and grow the sport, and just generally anyway. Bit like, I think the jiu-jitsu community needs to be a little bit more open. We can be quite closed, especially to outsiders, guys you don't know, or guys who've trained elsewhere. It's like, no, you gotta, like, we're all here for the same goal. So there is, even though there's a team element, it's not a team sport. At the end of the day, it's individuals training. So that's my view on that sort of thing. But we'll get there.
It's exciting to see, mate. And it's just purely out of curiosity, I guess, and selfish reasons more than anything. Big fan of the reorg stash. If Army Jiu-Jitsu got any plans on releasing some Army Jiu-Jitsu stash?
I think they do have a sponsorship with Storm Kimonos. Storm did make their stuff in China. So they had all the Chinese Hong Kong riots. Then they had COVID. So they've been a little bit sort of screwed over by world events. So now it's just kind of him rebuilding and going from there. But there was definitely talk of like army jiu-jitsu gis and all sorts of stuff coming out. So yeah, there will be stuff.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people listening to this, myself included. He'll be on it like a backpack as soon as that comes out, and it'll be great awareness, and also be great funding for the cause as well. So anyway, mate, I'll pretty much wrap it up there. What I do want to cover is where can people find you? Because I'm sure there'll be an awful lot of people listening to this and like, I want to see more, I want to learn more, I want to hear more about this. Where can people find you on the world of social media?
So Tactical _JiuJitsu on Instagram is probably my main prolific one at the moment. It goes quiet for a bit when I get busy running courses and stuff, but I'm just working on rebranding the website, which will be tactical. I think it's it's tactical-jiu-jitsu.co.uk. And I have all the links to train. We do have some online training, which is available. It's not everything we deliver because certain stuff we can't give out to public domain, but you can check out the training on there. Links on the Instagram. Or Andy Roberts and stuff. I'll be putting on a free training day for the police, probably either end of September or early October. We'll be throwing in another training day because that's what I try and do. I get paid for military training. Police don't have the funding or the sort of powers that be supporting enough training. So every so often I'll put on a day, come down, so probably about 6 hours training. We'll run through some basic self-defense stuff, and then we kind of run a theme on what the guys want, whether it's control and restraint, like cuffing stuff, or whether it's some weapon retention for sort of ARV guys and stuff. So we run through various themes. So they're good. Keep an eye on them, and they're supported by a company called C2R Fast. They make sort of body armor and kit and stuff. So they support those training days as well. Yeah,
that's fantastic, mate. And if people are in close proximity, can they come down and get a membership of your gym or train there?
Yeah. So we're in North Camp, Aldershot, Farnborough area. So yeah, come down. I've got an app, Andy Roberts BJJ on the App Store. Check out the timetable and come down. If you are serving sort of military or emergency services, we do discounts and stuff as well. So yeah,
when I put the story up that we were doing a podcast and we were recording, I had about 5 people message me and like, I specifically requested to get a post into the shot just so I could come and train around you. So I think you're already pretty popular, mate.
Send them down. I mean, as I say, the police training days I've only managed to do here. It's just because of the venue. I've got a venue in HR4K in Hereford are going to host one as well. So maybe October time, I'll do one up there. But if there's any other gyms or academies with mat space who are willing to give it up for the day for free, I'll run training sessions for them.
Personally, like I'd love to see you up in the north. Not that I can't travel down south, but I'd love to see you up in the north. We have probably a higher percentage split of guys up in the North England, in around Manchester, the Peak and Lake District. So it'd be fantastic if we can off and look to organise that.
My parents live in the High Peak.
Oh, okay,
So when I'm up visiting, we can do some stuff.
No problem. Superb, mate. Well, thank you very much for your time, and we'll step up and look forward to seeing you continue to grow the brand, mate.
Cheers, thanks a lot.